So guys, welcome to the Black Pill Radio Show. I am your host, Mr. Tyler, and today I have a bunch of authors and artists on the panel with me, and we're going to be talking about the whole quarantine issue and what we as authors can be doing with our extra time. We're also going to talk about some of the projects that they worked on or working on and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I want my panelists to introduce themselves and tell you guys a little bit about them. I'm going to start with Mr. Jay Cerrone.
Peace. Thanks for having me. I'm Jay Cerrone. I'm located in Philly, Pennsylvania. Paper Chase Publications is my company. I have 5 titles out right now. Illegal Life, A North Philly Story, Reloaded, The Prodigal Son, Book 1, Suicide Tuesday, Hood Politics, which is a joint project between myself and Jermaine Cruz, Fiesta Bowl Entertainment, and my newest release, Illegal Life 2, Call's Revenge. So my website is paperchasepublications.com. Books are available in paperback and ebook format from the website, and they're also available on the competition Amazon.
Sounds good, brother. Thank you and welcome to the show. Let me also introduce Lady Miz.
Good morning, everyone. So obviously, my name is Lady Miz. I'm an author and an artist, really artist first. I have a book called Broken Then Healed. When I wrote that book, that was pretty much just like my diary of a lot of things that I went through in my life. And it was a way for me to kind of release a lot of the pain that I had by putting it on paper. So that's pretty much what that book was about. And I have 2 albums out and 3 singles out right now. Everything that I have as far as music is on every platform, every streaming platform. My first album was Freedom of Expression, and my second album is Elegant Gangsta, and now I have Telling My Story and I'm Still Here as my 2 singles that I just recently released, and I'm also working on some new projects.
Outstanding, and welcome to the show. Last but not least is Miss Tiaya. So Tiaya, got it.
Hey, I'm Tiaya Smart Young. I'm a writer, editor, and speaker. What I'm passionate about is helping people who want to be authors publish their books and write short books, write books that are short but powerful. And my book that I have out right now is actually a journal. It's called Love You Mean It. And it is for women, and it's all about writing these kick-ass love notes to yourself, especially, and I feel like we need it especially now. And so that's my mission, and that's my passion right now that I'm working on.
Outstanding, and welcome to the broadcast. Thank you very much. So I want to start you guys off with a light question. We're going through this whole pandemic, this crisis with this coronavirus, so they say. I want to know how you guys are holding up as writers, as authors, as mothers, as sisters, as brothers. Like, how are we holding up and how are we handling this? I'm gonna come to Lady Miz first. Give us an idea what things are like in your part of town.
Oh boy. Well, besides trying to make it through all of the messages that I get on social media with all the conspiracies and all the stuff that's going on, I'm actually staying busy with my family, doing things around my house that I, had put off to the back burner. But I'm also still working on music. I'm working on learning how to edit and do other things that I would have been paying other people to do for me. I'm learning how to do it for myself now, which is kind of good in a way because now I get to save money. I'm coming up with several ideas, even though I haven't worked on them yet, but I still have the notes of ideas of books that I want to write in the future, titles and just whatever you could possibly think of that when it's time for me to do it, I kind of already have a general idea of what I'm doing. But yeah, it just basically trying to keep my head above water. Right now, I'm out of work. It's kind of like, some people. And I'm making it through, you know what I mean? I'm making it through. So I'm getting work done. I'm not staying stagnant. I'm still moving forward, and I'm not allowing it to crush me or bring me down. I'm still moving. I'm still going.
So your immediate family's okay?
My immediate family is fine. It's me, my husband, and my 2 kids. My daughter is in college, but she has to work obviously remotely from home. And she's also doing an internship in marketing. So she has to do all that from here. And my son, which is in the 6th grade, we obviously have to homeschool him now, which I'm actually kind of happy that I'm homeschooling him, because I get to see now some of the things that I would not see if, with him being in the classroom. So that one-on-one with my son, and I could kind of like steer him into more of teaching about more Black history, things that he might not get in the school that he's at. I now have control over that. So I'm honestly happy that my kids are home, and I'm happy that I can have more time with them, because I think that's more important. That's another thing, like what's going on right now. A lot of times people are stressed and they want to hurry up and get back out in the street. But I think that this is the time to take that moment to relax, because we live in a fast-paced world, and this is the time for all of us to slow down and see what really matters most to us and focus our attention on that while staying safe.
Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing. I'm going to move this to Miss Tiaya. Tell us what you're doing in this quarantine and how your family's holding up.
My family is holding up really well. I'm blessed. My mom lives in the same building with me, and she is considered a vulnerable population. And so I'm happy that we're close if anything, was to go down. But thankfully, everyone in my family is fine. So we're just trying to limit our movements to only things that we obviously just absolutely have to do, which is like getting groceries, going to the laundromat, because I live in an apartment building in Brooklyn. So luckily my building has a laundry, so we can just go downstairs, but it's a big building. So that just, it means that there's a lot of people that are using the facility. So it's just like, okay, trying to go down like at a weird time so that you're not interacting with a lot of people. So that's really like the main thing. We're safe, thankfully. And for me, as far as being home, I already work from home because I work for myself. So my thing right now is really trying to beef up the level of content that I produce. I'm happy. I'm like Lady Miz. I have a kid in college, so he's here. My husband's here. My son's like Lady Miz. My son's in the room working on his assignments. He needs that internship though, so I like that. I'm gonna be like, dude, are you looking at internships? What else are you doing back there? But really, I'm really trying to beef up the level of content that I'm creating. So with the book, I was like, you know what, I had a bunch of events planned. Like I was going to do different kind of workshops, and there were brunches and that kind of thing. So because our movements are now, we can't go anywhere, we can't do anything, I said, let me do some things online. So I've created some like live workshops. I'm doing more things like this to be able to say, okay, I was on this show, let's share this on Instagram, share this on Facebook. It's like being able to let people know that you're still out there, you're still doing things and still creating. And I'm helping other people who want to write nonfiction books. So that's my other thing. I've been taking a lot more client calls, because it's like, maybe I have definitely lost. I also do content marketing for brands. So I lost a big client, and that hurts. And so it's like you have to replace that money. So.
Excellent, and thank you for sharing. Next up is Mr. J. How are you holding up during this pandemic?
Holding up pretty well. Thanks for asking. But yeah, basically, situation with me is I'm divorced. My son and my ex-wife, so we have 50-50 custody, but we live in two different states. So I live in Philly. She's originally from Jersey. She lives in Jersey. So we have 50-50 custody, so it's a little bit different. So I got my son on Monday, so it's Monday to Mondays. So my son is here now. So with the homeschooling, it's just a whole situation. So the pandemic has affected us a little bit differently. But it's actually made it come together because we were having some issues, but it's made it come together where it's been easier since it's happened, because it's like, you gotta do this, we gotta do this. So it's I hate to sound like that, but it's actually made it easier for for us to get along.
Mm.
So, and and it's good because I don't have to go back and forth to drive to Jersey and wake my son up at 5:30 in the morning to take him to school in South Jersey. And so I'm just homeschooling them now, which I've been wanting to do because
Mm.
only a fool would let. I'm not coming at nobody, but Brother Malcolm X said only a fool would let the enemy educate his child. Not saying they all did, but I had this conversation with her 4.5 years ago when we broke up, and she's a teacher herself. So and I'm kind of liking this aspect of it, like the sister says, Miss. Like I mean, I'm liking this aspect of it. I really am. There's a lot of other negative things that go along with this whole situation. You know what I'm saying? But I'm liking this aspect of it. Of getting, I mean, his school is sending the work, but like has been stated earlier, there's other aspects that you're able to go over certain information because the curriculum is given. He's been kind of, my son's in 5th grade, so he's kind of flying through that, and it's over, and then we get to go over what we get to go over, and he's able to use his creativity because dad has a business. We go around and we've been doing over the past several years what we've been doing. He's been out in business with me. You know what I mean? I've been showing him the ropes. So now he's been writing his own projects and the stuff that he's been doing. He's been able to use the time that he would have been in school past several weeks, past month almost it's been going on to work on his projects. So he's been able to do that. I've been writing more. I just got a new client, because I write for other people as well. So I got a new client. I believe it was last week. So yeah, I've been productive. So um, things been going pretty well. I feel badly for the people that have been negatively impacted by the virus, according to the media. So I'll just leave it there.
I know what you said. We're probably on the same page with that. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask you guys about this opportunities, right? I know Tiaya talked
Mhm.
about some opportunities of getting new clients and growing the business. Jay Sharon talked about working with new clients. So I'm gonna start with Tiaya first. Like, what advice would you give to authors out there to create new opportunities, new levels, new avenues of income during this pandemic time?
Well, I work specifically with people who write nonfiction books. So my thing is use your experiences and use your expertise to write books. And one of the things that you can probably immediately do that is um, cost effective is write an ebook, right? So if you say, for instance, if you are an accountant and you deal like your bread and butter is like tax season, you can give us like 10 tips and write a dope ebook and sell it right off of your website. So people go to your website, they get an immediate download, and you're going to sell something maybe for 19.99, maybe sell it for $20. That's something that you can immediately do that you don't have to worry about shipping and handling. You don't have to worry about printing. And it is something that you can complete in a really short amount of time. So it's not like, oh, I need to spend 3 months working on this. No, because this is already in your wheelhouse. You're going to create this thing. You're going to think about all the questions that people ask you all the time about taxes. Or let's say it's like, you fixed your credit or you've gotten out of debt in like 2 years. Well, people want to know all those kinds of things. So it's like use that expertise that you have to create content and create something that you can make really fast and sell it right off of your website. Or people, even if you don't have a website, but you're telling everybody on Facebook, and they can send you money to you via PayPal or Venmo or even Cash App. But that's a way that you can do something really quickly.
So for somebody who's never written before, what advice would you give them to get started doing those things? So you talk about an accountant, right?
Mhm.
Accountant's probably not an author, but
Mhm.
those are great ideas for that accountant to do. So how does that accountant start that process as being an author?
Right. Okay. So let's say, for instance, you are the person who is just figuring out how to get out of debt, and you've done this, and you, like you said, you're not a writer. You can either work with an editor, and let's say you have some money, you can hire an editor to do that for you, or excuse me, hire a ghostwriter to write the ebook for you. You pay that person to do your work, and then they're responsible for creating that content. But what you do is you work with them, so they are then now going to interview you, ask you all the questions for these 10 tips to get out of debt quickly, 10 tips to launch your home business, 10 tips to make sure you're getting the most money from your tax return, whatever it is, that person is now going to become, you're going to download what's in here, you're going to download this file and give it to them. They're going to write it, and then you're going to oversee what they've written to make sure that it's up to par, that it's actually the way that you want to sound. You want to make sure that person is keeping your voice. You want to make sure they're keeping your style, and it's your content. You're just paying them for the privilege of having their expertise in terms of being a writer. Now, if you do not have funds to do that, what I suggest you do is maybe take the most popular questions that people ask you about how you got out of debt. There's a woman that I just met. She paid off $90,000 in debt in 3 years. I'm curious about how she did it. And she was like, I had to get an additional job, and I used everything from that job to pay down this debt. And so she talked about missing brunches with girlfriends, selling items. She was like, I went around my home and looked at everything that I could possibly sell, and every piece of money that I made, if I sold something for $50, if I sold a pair of boots that I never wore that in my closet and I sold it for $100, that went to the debt. So those kinds of things, your stories can end up being chapters. So maybe there's one chapter that's all about looking around your house, figuring out everything that you can sell. Boom, that's a chapter. Maybe one chapter is about getting a part-time job or a freelance job or other opportunities and using that to pay down debt. Boom, that's another chapter. So there's different kinds of ways to look at breaking down that content if you're not necessarily a writer or a content producer yourself.
Outstanding advice. I'm going to come to Lady Ms. And I want you to piggyback off of that. For authors out there or aspiring authors, what advice would you give them, not just in terms of getting that novel started, but just opportunities out there, creating opportunities for themselves?
Okay, so the first thing that I want to say, and I'm not trying to go off topic, but the book that I wrote was that was the first time. I didn't have any experience. When I was writing, I was just kind of like typing my feelings on a laptop, and just kind of leaving it there and just going back just like a diary. So I'm gonna answer your question first, but then I want to just kind of respond to what she just said. One, if you're somebody like me who is not experienced, the first thing that I would do is just like a essay, what are you going to write about? Come up with a title or something that has meaning as to what you want to write about, and then take the sections of how can I put it? If it's writing about cars, you're going to break it down. You're going to talk about the steering wheel. You're going to talk about the tires. You're going to talk about how you put the gas in. So you're kind of breaking it down so that your story all comes together. And then at the end, you kind of sum it up at the conclusion. So for me, I went from birth, from me living in Philly, born in Philly, and then moving to New York. And I just took that and I just broke down everything that I've been through, and I just wrote about it. So put your ideas and put your feeling and your thought on paper, and then seek help from those who are experienced. Now, I wanted to say, and I'm sorry, what's the young lady's name again? Because I don't want to say she, I want to address her name.
Tia.
What is it?
Tia,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that I'm seeing Tia and meeting her and the other gentlemen as well, because I have to tell y'all really quickly, I don't want to take up too much time, but when I was writing, I was searching for people who had experience like you guys. Y'all have experience. I was looking for people, honestly, who look like me, that will understand my language and have the experience that can help me put out the book. Now, I'm going to be totally transparent with y'all and tell you, I was so unhappy with the ending results of my book. But due to the fact of the company that I was using, what they were telling me I could put in, what I couldn't put in, some things had to be taken out because they were like, oh, you can't say that. It will be incriminating, or it would be this or that to another person. You could get sued. So they made me take a lot of stuff out. And then when you stated that you should have someone that understands you, that can help bring out the best in your story, that listened to you. The person that was editing my book did not know how to do that. Now, I'm not going to, you know, talk badly about the person, but he was an older white guy. And he didn't even understand my language. So when I looked at my book, I'm like, I don't talk like this. Or if it's a slang that I know people that would read my book understood, he didn't understand it. So he changed it to the way he thought it should be. And it totally changed the language of what I was trying to say. So for me, I would say from my experience, please make sure that you guys find someone that listens to you and that will understand you and understand your story and your language when they're editing your book. That is so important, because I was so upset with my results, but I did not want to keep paying. The publishing companies, I don't know if I used a so-called self-publishing company, and they kept asking for more money. So listen, this was a learning experience for me. Because again, I was unexperienced, but it was a learning experience for me to say, okay, instead of rushing and just finding anybody, you need to make sure you find the right person that can listen, that can understand, and make sure that you also do your research on, if you're going with a self-publishing company, you need to understand everything about that company before you go with them. Because in the end, you know, when I looked at what I'm getting from the book sales, I was like, well, they're taking most of the money. And then I had to go outside. They told me they were going to pay for the cover. They were going to have all of that in the package. So be careful when you're looking for packages, because I had to go outside and find someone else to do the package, even though they were supposed to do it. So I'm not trying to draw it all out. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, to sum up, the answer to the question is, do your research. Make sure you do your research, and make sure you find someone who understands you and know how you speak in the language and the information you're trying to put out there. Because if you don't, you're going to be unhappy in the end. And everyone wants to be happy with the work that they do, you know? So I'm definitely going to link with you, both of y'all. So I'm glad that, you know, that I got a chance to come on here and be a part of this, because I've been looking for it. And I'm going to be honest, when I search first, I always search for, okay, I'm looking for Black businesses, Black owners. I want to make that dollar circulate. And I always had problems. I don't know why, finding people. So I go to people who don't understand what I'm saying. And my ending result is not always as happy. So, you know, I do want to find people who understand where I'm coming from. Not saying that I won't work with other people, because professionalism is also just as important to me. But I do want to be with someone who definitely can understand my story and where I'm coming from and speak my language.
Thank you for the advice. It's good advice. I want to piggyback off of that. Use this time to do your research. And that's one thing that Lady Miz is stressing. You guys have a lot of time on your hands, most of you who are not essential workers. If you guys are just at home, definitely do some research as you're writing your project, taking your notes down and things like that. Also, experience is important. I wouldn't recommend you hire your friends to edit your books and things like that. Hire people who have experience in the genre or the type of work or the style or the language that you guys use, that you're comfortable with. Because like Lady Miz said, if you go hire an editor who's doing other styles of books, right? Let's say your book is sci-fi and that editor's doing romance novels, might not be a fit, you know, so you got to find somebody who not only has experience, but experience in the area and the subject or the topic that you're writing about or that you want to write about. So I'm going to move this on to Jay. Mr. Jay, tell us about some business opportunities that these aspiring authors or seasoned authors could take advantage of during this pandemic time.
Business opportunities. Well, basically, I think that it would be a good time, going off of what everybody was just talking about research. Research is a very, very, very important aspect of any business opportunity, especially with writing, publishing, editing. It's funny how everybody's using, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but I see a lot of people on social media when I am on social media, likening the quarantine to house arrest, right? So I Don't know. I think we discussed it when I was up there a couple of years ago. That was around the time when I started my business. Well, when I was on house arrest. I was on house arrest for a while, like back in 2010, 11, 12, right? So it's just very interesting to me that because that's what I did. I did a lot of research on how I was going to start, and then I started my business in 2013, Paper Chase Publications. So it's just this would be the time for everybody to, if they're going to get into business, in the writing business, start a publishing company. I suggest instead of going with if you're going to write a book and it, publish it, whether through try to go through a traditional publisher. I stress ownership. I think we should own our own, especially when it's our stories, because we've had an issue, um, and not just us, but we talking about us, right? So whoever, like they say, whoever the victor is the one that gets to tell the story and to paint the narrative of what happened.
Mhm.
So if we're writing our own stories, we might as well tell it the way it needs to be told. And so then retain the rights to the story. Um, and then if we're going to make money off of it, then, with copyright, 70 years, your family, after you gone, your family can continue that. And then if you impress upon your seeds, if you impress that upon them, they'll keep that going. You know what I mean? So as far as the business opportunities, if we start publishing companies and own publishing companies, that's something that we can pass on, build dynasties. So I really think it's important. And it, when I write for people, I encourage everybody. I have a program called Do for Self Publishing mentorship program. I encourage everybody that I write for in any aspect, whether I just mentor, whether I just help them compile their book, whether I do some light editing for them or whatever. There's a lot of different things that people could do. I really encourage everybody, if they want to write their story, because everybody talks about whether they see me, whether they buy my book, because most people are just buying one of my books and supporting and reading it or whatever, buying it for somebody else as a gift. Everybody says, "Oh, I want to write a book." Everybody says that. "Oh, I want to write a book," and I say, "Then do it." You know what I'm saying? Do it. You know what I mean? Do it, because that's something that's like your legacy. So everybody's sitting home right now. Well, not everybody, but like you said, most non-essential workers are sitting home. Um, you can only Netflix and chill so much. So if you're actually an author or an aspiring author or a writer, there's a lot of different ways that you can try to compile your information. And if you need some help, holla at your boy. You know what I'm saying? Like paperchasepublications.com, 888-399-0365. My fault. I figured I'd just put it in there real quick. But yeah, no, but for real, like, because we need to own our own stories, and there's been enough narratives being told about us for centuries. Like, you know what I mean? For centuries, they've been telling stories
Yes,
about
yes,
us.
yes.
We need to tell our own stories about us, and we need to own them. And then as soon as you have people telling a well-rounded story, it's not like we not all we not all a one-sided person. I, I'm not all negative. I wasn't always positive. I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, because the kids coming up need to see, like, they need to see that they don't need to feel like trash and throw the baby away with the bathwater as soon as they make a mistake. Brother Malcolm X wasn't always brother. He used to be Detroit Red. You know what I mean? So they need to realize that there's growth, and they need
Mhm.
to see that. That's why we need to own our own stories. The opportunities as authors, I feel like the most important thing we need to do is sit down and, using this quarantine time, sit down, focus, because the hardest part is to get right in, and not just every time you stop, whatever distraction you have, every time you stop writing or just to go to sleep, to start the next time, the next chapter. The next page. Every time you stop writing, you have to motivate yourself for whatever reason to start again. So just keep writing. Don't be a writer, be writing, as they say. And then once you're finished, get it done. Research, put the book out or the short story or the article or whatever it is out. Get your publishing right, because that's when it becomes a business. Establish yourself. LLC is recommended, and don't let these other people own your stuff. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Excellent advice. Thank you very much. And I'll piggyback off of that. Just to say, when you guys are doing that research, that doesn't mean you stop writing. You can
Hmm.
always write that first draft. Your first novel might have 8 drafts, 10 drafts, right? So don't think the first thing you write is it, right? You're gonna write that, you're gonna develop that some more, you're gonna research what you wrote, you're gonna listen to some people who you trust, who you're gonna let read it. They'll give you some feedback, and then you'll rewrite it and you'll write some more. And then eventually, when you feel comfortable with it, that's when you're going to go to an editor and then have them, a professional editor, and then have them look at your work. And definitely think about ownership. Like Jason Rohn said, it's important that we have revenues of income, different streams of income. So the book is one stream of income, but by owning a publishing company, you can have other authors under your publishing company and helping them, and at the same time, you'll be making money from those publishers' work, those authors' work as well. So think about all of that. Research is the key, but at the same time, just start writing. Like, you don't even have to research right now. If you have the story in your head, just write it first. Put it down on paper, get it done, then go back, do some research, and keep adding to it, keep making changes and develop it. Keep it simple. Do what you can do first, keep it simple, and then everything will be fine. I want to move on to,
Can I jump in really quickly? I just wanted to say
sure, sure.
something in addition to when we write our books, to think about too, that to piggyback off of what the brother was saying, is that when you have your book, it can now lead to other things. So you can have speaking opportunities, you can create a course. And that's what I did with my book. Because I was thinking, like, well, the thing about self-publishing that I love, which is different from traditional publishing, is that a traditional publisher has a certain amount of time that they're going to promote your book. You, as the self-published author, as the owner of your intellectual property, you can always be promoting your book. You can always be creating something based on your book. So for my first book, what I did was I said, you know what, I want to make some workshops and I want to go into schools. I want to go into girls' schools. And so someone said to me, listen, I'm a principal. It's easier for me to get you into my school if you could become a DOE vendor. I had no idea. What does that mean, a Department of Education vendor? So that was a huge tip for me. And I'm thinking it's like this complicated process. No, all it is was like an application. They just want to vet you, make sure you're legit, and know who they're bringing into the school. So anything that I can do to make myself easier to get this proposal into the school, it's like, hey, I have this book. I created these confidence workshops for girls. And it's like, oh, okay, it's something cool. Maybe they have like $500, they have $1,000, and they say, oh, well, we want to give that to you because you created this workshop based off of the book. So it's like, oh, now I can get the book into schools, but I can also get the workshop into schools. So that's another reason why it's really important for us to think of other ways to make money from what we're doing.
Excellent advice. So you guys out there who want to be Department of Education vendors, you have to have a business, and that business needs to be in existence for 1 year, just 1 year, and you need to show only one transaction of business. And once you show that one transaction, it's proof your business is doing something. And then you can put out proposals and work with multiple schools. You can
Yeah.
have staff under your business working at multiple schools, and the schools have huge budgets, and they'll pay you to come in there and be a vendor. You can also look into the women and minority business certifications,
Yes.
and they have to give out, the goal is 30% of the contracts they want going to women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses. So you guys can be looking at that for other opportunities as well. The question I wanted to jump in was new projects, right? But underneath that, since Tiaya brought it up about the vendors, I encourage authors to turn those novels into screenplays and start looking at producing films. I produce films. That's something I'm always pushing the authors. And for some reason, the authors that I try to get to do that, it never works out. Don't understand why, but it just doesn't. But I'm going to take this one to Tiaya, and then I'm coming to Lady Miz. Future projects. What are your plans for some of your future projects for your novel? Not necessarily for the business side of the teaching and everything. Just sticking to your novels. What are your business plans for the future? And does any of that include films?
So first, I would have to write the novel. I haven't written any novels. Only things that I have written have been nonfiction. So I've been in publishing for 20 something years. My background is in magazine publishing. My first job was at Essence magazine. So I've worked at Essence. I've worked at Juicy. I've worked at Latina. I worked at Double XL. So I have a strong nonfiction background. I did write a novel in a boot camp class, which I also recommend for people to really work on their skills in classes. So that's something that I've always thought in the back of my mind that, yeah, I would really like to work on screenplays. So it's there. I just haven't written the novel that I would now like to turn into, a screenplay. But I absolutely agree. I think too, for us, that's a bigger payday as well. Like if you're writing a screenplay versus writing a book and trying to hustle your book, it's a bigger payday for us in terms of that have a larger income revenue stream. So I do want to do that. I just haven't gotten to that yet. It's on the list of things to do though.
But you can do that with your nonfiction books, right? Whether it's a bio, whatever, you can.
Well, so the first one is not a bio. It's for girls. It's called Famous: How to Be the Star of Your Show, a teen girl's guide to embracing her fabulous self. So the thing with that I thought about was like, oh, maybe it's a maybe it's a web series. Right? So that's a possibility. The other book that is a more of a journal. So unless it would be me sharing my stories, I don't excuse me, sorry, my allergies. I don't see how that one is definitely connected. The first one, yes, but I don't see how this one could be.
So I like that you mentioned web series, because it could be a web series. It could be a short film, right? Everything doesn't have to be a feature. It could be a 20-minute film.
It could be a documentary, right?
It could be.
I mean, they did that with The Secret, right?
It could be self-help. It could be even like a 10-minute short version that you would pitch that could then be an hour and a half film. All right, so just think about ideas like that. I'm going to come to Jay Sharon because I know he wants to say something. Then I'll come to Lady Miz. Go ahead, Jay.
I was just saying they did that with The Secret, right? The Secret was not. I mean, I know that was like, it's a self-help kind of like, so you could do that. And I've written screenplay. I hadn't written screenplays the last time I was up there. So, so I was hearing I was picking up what you was putting down, brother. So yeah, I just wanted to add that because Tiaya.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. So I appreciate putting me on to another stream of thought to be able to say, you know what, you don't have to just think this way. You can think, oh yeah, think about what they did with The Secret. Like you can have that other piece of content.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, because
you got me thinking.
And yeah, it's all good because I'm impressed with your resume, sis.
Oh, thanks.
Side note, yeah, no problem.
So you can also piggyback that into, maybe you could be a host of a show, fix your life kind of thing, working with girls. I mean, anything's possible just from the novel that you wrote. It can open up a lot of different areas of film and television. Don't even have to be a film. Something to think about. I'm going to come to Lady Miz, and tell me about some of the projects that you're working on, and does any of that include film?
Well, yes, I've been trying for a minute to get I wanted to do a short film for my book. And that was really huge to me because I felt like now I could kind of control the way the story is put out there, and I can put it in my own words more or less, and also make it more visual. I think that in today's time, people are more visual. So I think that short films and web series and things like that do pretty well. So that is something that is on the agenda. The only struggle that I had with that is really just being able to, one, financially support everything, because there's a lot into it that you got to think about. The person recording, you got to have the people that's going to play the part. It's more than that, the props and things like that. I'm really actually good at that, because even my music videos, when I work with videographers, I already come with the vision. So I'm great with turning anything into something visual, because that's what I do. But I obviously need more funds to be able to do that, because I have up my own publishing company. I have an LLC, I have a DBA, I have these things in the work, but it's just that I'm not really doing much with it. The only thing that I'm doing something with is my publishing company, but that's for my music. So I have to look into also seeing if when it comes to books, do books and music, can that both be under the same publishing company? And maybe one of them can answer that, or is that something separate? But overall, not to get away from your question, but for me, at the end of the day, the short film is what I want to do for Broken Then Healed, which is my story. And then I do have another something else that I've been working on, and I'm hoping that I can kind of make that into a film.
All right, I would recommend you keep your music publishing and your literary publishing separate.
Separate, okay.
Yeah, two separate entities, and just work off of that. But that's the thing about being a multifaceted artist. It's like I have 100% of energy, and how much of that energy am I going to put into recording my music? How much energy am I going to put into being an actress or an actor? How much energy am I going to put into my books and being an author? I might have a day job, right? So I always tell people, just choose your top two, and maybe just go with that, and hopefully one of those blow up, and then you'll have the resources and the help, the money and all of that stuff to then do a whole bunch of things like a Beyonce or a Tyler Perry. But in order to be Beyonce, it started with that music, right? She was doing the music first. Tyler Perry was doing the plays first. And then they became so successful, it opened up all these other doors for them to do so many things. So to your authors out there, keep it simple. We're talking about films and we're getting to other things, and that's more for the seasoned authors out there who's published 1, 2, 3 or more books. Let's turn those books into other streams of revenue, other ways to make money, which is going to come through a lot of visual media. You can also turn that book into a play. And do something on the stage if that's your thing. I would say visual media, because that could play around the world over and over. Whereas a play, you need the actors to physically be there, present on stage to do the work. So I'm a proponent of film and visual media in that way. I want to know specifics though, like Jay Sharon, what is the next novel that you're working on? And give us a little tidbit about it.
I got a couple I'm working on right now. I just released Illegal Life 2 like a month ago, like a month and a half, like right before everything went locked down for real. So Illegal Life 2, Carl's Revenge, is the sequel to the first book that I released. But right now I'm working on something for a client. So that's like I'm not privy to fully discuss that one. But I'm also working on Prodigal Son Returns book 2. So that'll be out. And I'm working on Suicide Tuesday. So remember I was telling you about when I was up there, I was telling you about Suicide Tuesday, which wasn't out yet, and that's been out for a year and a half now. So I'm working on the sequels to that. So what'll be the next 2 books that'll be out of mine this year will be The Prodigal Son Returns. So that's the sequel to the coming of age story, uh, The Prodigal Son, book 1, which is like about a young brother. He's raised religious. He gets pulled in the streets when he's a teenager. But instead of just talking about the street stuff that he got involved in, it talks about the the root causes, the psychology behind why he got pulled in the streets, family issues, religious rebellion, emotional things. Um, a lot of stuff that young brothers get involved in, well, sisters too, but it's about a young brother that he get involved in. Instead of just talking it out, they just act out, and get into a lot of trouble. So this is the sequel to that book. Um, that'll be out this year. And then Suicide Tuesday, the book that I was talking about when I was up there last time a couple years ago, was about a young brother. He's married, has a newborn daughter. He gets into an argument with his wife and his parents Friday night after work. He takes the drug Molly for the first time, uh, goes out, takes place over the course of one weekend from Friday to Tuesday, gets into all types of stuff. And it's like a psychological thriller. So this is the sequel. So that will also be out. So I have a few things that I'm working on simultaneously, but Suicide Tuesday sequel and Prodigal Son sequel will be out this year uh, if everything goes according to plan.
Sounds good. Keep in mind, Stephen King wrote a whole bunch of books and turned them into a whole bunch of other type of projects. That we need
That's
to be
the
on that.
plan. That's the plan.
Exactly. We want to be on that level. So I'm coming to Tiaya. What specific thing are you working on next, whether it's a novel or even a business?
So right now, what I'm working on is I have a bunch of clients, so I'm editing projects. So like, for instance, I'm working with a makeup artist who is doing an ebook. She's like, listen, I need to make some coins. I can't go out here and beat these faces. So I saw, and this is another thing too that I think we have to be mindful of, is like, when you're reading things, I happen to be reading a blog and I saw that she said, yeah, I want to write this ebook. And so I knew her from working with her back in the day when I worked for Juicy Magazine. And I was like, let me send her an email real quick. Let me see if she's self-publishing. What is she trying to do? And she was like, yeah, I need an editor. So I'm working with her on that. I have a couple of nonfiction authors that I'm working with. There's one woman who has spent 20 years in this particular religion. She got out and she wants to write her story. So those are like the two immediate things that I'm working on for other people. For myself, I said that I wanted to really get back to fiction. So I do want to get back to working on characters. I feel like that's really important for me. I do a lot of work with people on their personal stories, but I miss building and developing characters, creating these worlds. I have a merchandise for writers. I have like these t-shirts, these hoodies. So that's what I'm, in terms of like thinking about other things that you could do with your business. So my focus is on writing and publishing, all of my t-shirts and my hoodies are all about writing and publishing. So like I have these t-shirts because I had to sue a company that I wrote for and they owed me a gang of money and they did not give me my money. So we had to go to court. I had to sue them. So I have these t-shirts that say I write for money, not for exposure. I'm from Brooklyn, so I have t-shirts and hoodies that say the dopest writers are from Brooklyn. I got to get some for my girl in Long Island, so I got to get some for Philly too, so y'all can represent as well. But that's, those are my immediate things that I'm working on right now.
Outstanding. Let me come to Miss Lady Miss. What specific project are you working on right now?
Right now, I just finished my single, I'm Still Here. So that's something that I've been working on. And also I have another single, Telling My Story. So that is what I was putting out there until all of this happened. I was supposed to go and do a few touring and interviews. I had a whole bunch of stuff set up and everything just came like to a stop when it comes to that, because those places I had to physically be there. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting on that, I'm still promoting it. But at the same time, I'm working on, I've been working on a business plan, which I didn't mention before because it was kind of separate from what we were talking about in a way. But I'm working on a business plan where I will be housing young adults who are aging out of foster care with nowhere to go. So where I live now, there's a lot of kids in foster care and they are, once they age out, they're on the street. So I do foster care, and there's also a program up here called Home Type Care. So this program allows them, people to come and live in the housing, and they basically pay for it. So since I do mentoring with my jobs, I work with people who have developmental disabilities, and I mentor people. I kind of fused the two together and said, okay, well, let me take the foster care, let me get properties and strictly have it for those who are aging out with nowhere to go. And they have help from, the system that can help pay for their housing. And then I can now mentor them and coach them along the way. So that's the two things that I'm working on at this time.
and maybe turn that into a business similar to what Tiaya is doing. And while you housing them, you teaching them some of the arts and stuff like that, some writing and business and things of that nature. And
Right.
that'll be dope. And I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. So lastly, I just want you guys to give the people a shout out in terms of where they can find you, your websites, your social media platforms, anything you might have coming up in the next week or so, whether it be online or if you're doing a live or something like that, how people can check into that. And you can drop some of your novel titles and things like that, or clients you're working with who have novels. And then we will wrap this up. And I'm going to finish this out with Lady Tiaya.
Okay. Let's see. It was a lot. Okay. So where people can find me, definitely on Instagram at Tiaya Smart Young. So that's TAIIASMARTYOUNG. My website is also my name. So if people want to get in contact with me and I offer free client consultations for any creative writing project that you may be working on, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or blog post or ebook. You can book an appointment with me on my website. Just go to the contact page, and that's completely free. And then if we decide to work together, then that'll be dope too. In terms of, you said things that I'm working on right now.
Yeah, if you got something that you're working on that's like coming out in the next week, whether it be an interview that you have coming up or you're doing some
Yeah.
training.
Let's see. Tomorrow I'm interviewing Lettucey, and that'll be on Essence's website. And then the following week, I have a show that I do once a month called Indie Authors Live. I stream it live to Facebook, where I interview nonfiction authors about their projects and their journeys, because I feel like we can all learn from everyone's journey to publishing is not the same for self-publishing. And so I feel like we can all learn something. So that was my goal for myself for 2020, that I want to find nonfiction authors who have a message that they can share with us. So I'm interviewing this woman named Tanisha Johnson, who has a book called When Depression and Anxiety Have a Voice. And right now, I think a lot of us just being home, we're dealing with a lot of mental health issues. So I think that's going to be an important conversation for me to have next week.
How do they find that interview on Facebook Live? Like, where would they go to see it?
Sure. My Facebook page is called Yeah Right with Tiaya Smart Young. So that's right as in WRITE. So Yeah Right with Tiaya Smart Young. You can find that on Facebook, and then you like the page, and make sure you hit that notification for when I go live, and you will check out the interview next week, Wednesday.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Jay Sharon, what about you? How can people find you, get in contact with you?
People can find me on Instagram at Paper Chase Publications. Uh, all one word, no underscores or anything, with an S at the end. So PaperChasePublications. And my link to my website is in the bio, paperchasepublications.com. And then on Facebook, my Facebook page is paper-chase. So, and then publications is my business page on Facebook. So I can be found at both places. And then yeah, so as far as projects coming, or excuse me, as far as events coming up, what I've been doing, I keep everything up to date. Post simultaneously to Instagram and Facebook business at the same time. Keep everything up to date with what I'm doing, where I'll be, if there's anything going on. Obviously, nothing's really going on outside of the house right now, because I'm following the rules. I'm following the low key martial law rules right now. But I've been doing like these excerpt readings from the book periodically. So on the IGTV. So I've been doing that, and then on my website there's actually a free preview of a few chapters of each book. So I have 5 titles available on of 5 books available, 5 titles available, and there's, if you go on the shop link or the shop tab on the website, you can actually read a free preview of all the books. So, and then I got audio books will be coming. That's in the works. It's just Ti remind me that I do all. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, sis. But I got merchandise coming as well. The like reading is gangster merchandise coming as well.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So, uh, basically, I think that's it. But anything else will be on the social media because I gotta, you know, we gotta do that. That's what people are on. That's what people are paying attention to. So I'll post an update to that.
Excellent. Thank you for the advice about authors reading pieces of your work online. Um,
Mhm.
the lady, I forget her name, Latina lady, I think she's Dominican, and she's a poet, and she wrote a wonderful novel, but she did a reading online. It was really powerful. She had over 600 people on the live feed reading a piece of her book and then answering questions. And I've seen a lot of authors have been doing this lately. So for you authors out there, I definitely would recommend doing a reading. And for you screenplay writers out there, if you can get a few actors together for your scene, I would recommend reading a scene from one of your screenplays out there, or a screenplay from a film, get people interested, and then they might go over and check out the film. So those are some good things you guys can use social media for. I'm going to wrap this up with Lady Miz. Tell us where everybody can find you.
Yes. So everybody, first things first is go straight to my website. It's ladymiz.com. And I spelled that LADIMIZ. So that's the one-stop shop right there. I try to bring everybody there just in case one day these social medias are not available to us. There's still a way for people to get in touch with us. But also, my Facebook, my Instagram. I don't really use Twitter, but I just have it there. But everything that I have is Lady Miz, and that's LADIMIZ. On Facebook, it's Lady Miz Music. But other than that, everyone can reach me mainly on Facebook, Instagram, or directly through my website. One stop shop, and everything that I do, I post on there. So all my updates will be there on anything that I have going on.
So check out Lady Miz on Instagram. She put out a track a few weeks ago. It was fire. The track was fire. It was fire.
Thank you.
And I don't listen to hip hop that much because what they putting out today is crazy. But the track was fire. It had an old school vibe to it for me, and I really liked it. So I want to thank you guys for being a part of the broadcast, and I will talk to you guys soon.